Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into a very strange chapter of gaming history. We're going into that corner of the Resident Evil universe that I think Capcom mostly wants us to forget.
Oh, for sure. We're talking about the Gun Survivor subseries, and specifically the last, and, arguably the most bizarre entry of them all, Dead Aim.
Exactly. So we've stacked up all the articles, the development notes, fan analysis, everything we could find, and we are going to give you the shortcut to understanding why this low-budget light gun game is secretly one of the most fascinating failures in the entire franchise.
It really is. I mean, it's a story of persistence over sanity, I think. The sources are all very clear. The first Resident Evil Survivor was commercially just a disaster, a gigantic flop back in 2000.
Right.
It just struggled so much because it tried to merge survival horror with like an on-rails arcade shooter. And players at the time just absolutely rejected it.
And this is where the mystery really begins for me. Why, after such a clear rejection from the market, did Capcom not only approve a sequel, but eventually greenlight 4 of these games?
Yeah, what was the thinking there?
It seems like it was driven less by quality and more by that early 2000s console obsession with, finding a hit for their light gun peripheral.
Precisely. You have the original RE Survivor, that's followed by Biohazard Gun Survival 2, Code Veronica. Then the whole chronology just becomes a total mess.
A mess is putting it lately.
Because the third game just jumps the rails completely and becomes a Dino Crisis game.
Right, Dino Stalker in the West.
Exactly. It was retitled Dino Stalker over here, and they dropped the Gun Survivor name, they dropped the Dino Crisis name. It was a clear attempt to get away from what was, a commercially toxic brand.
So after the third game completely ditches the brand, they somehow decide, you know what? Let's bring it back for one last go.
And that's our deep dive today. The fourth and final installment. Resident Evil Dead Aim.
And you really cannot talk about Dead Aim without mentioning its original Japanese title.
Yeah.
It's just spectacular.
It's so good.
Biohazard Gun Survivor 4. Heroes never die. Heroes never die. It fundamentally changes the entire tone of the game, doesn't it?
Completely.
It suggests this, like high-stakes, dramatic failure. A very specific kind of B-movie melodrama. And the Western title, Dead Aim, is just so straightforward. It's boring. It completely misses that vibe.
It really sets the expectation for something completely over the top, which, to be fair, is exactly what they delivered.
So how did we get to that level of melodrama?
Well, to understand that, you have to look at the development shift. The first 2 Gun Survivor games were made by a studio called Tosi, but for this final one, Capcom gave the reins to a new studio. Cavia.
And here's the piece of trivia that I think makes this game just essential for a certain kind of fan. Cavia is the studio famous for developing the Drakengard franchise.
The very same one. Dark, complex, often emotionally shattering games.
And critically, they're the ones who created the spin-off, Nier, which, eventually led to the massive global hit Nier Automata.
It's such a huge contradiction, isn't it?
It's unbelievable.
This is a studio known for weaving these deep, existential, often tragic narratives, games where the moral choices just haunt you. And yet, here they are, making a low-budget Resident Evil light gun spin-off.
With dialogue mismatches and a villain who turns into, an electric drag queen?
Yep. And they were adapting to the hardware of the time. Dead Aim was a PlayStation 2 exclusive back in 2003, and it was engineered specifically around Namco's GunCon 2 light gun.
But here's the really fascinating detail, especially for collectors and people who love console history. Cavia went out of its way to make sure the game also supported the standard PS2 controller. And incredibly, it had native PC-style mouse support.
Which is just so rare for a PS2 title.
Extremely rare. People who catalog the PS2 library, they struggle to find other games that offer that.
And that desire to kind of bridge the gap is what defines the game's entire hybrid gameplay system.
So you're constantly shifting control modes.
Exactly. It's third person when you're exploring, but the instant you aim your weapon, the camera snaps into first person. And what's unique for the time is that you can still move around, even in that first-person view.
Okay, let's unpack the control scheme with a standard controller, because this is where all the charm and all the frustration really collide.
For sure.
You've got the classic, rigid RE-style tank controls for exploration, but the default movement speed isn't a walk, it's a full-on run.
Yeah, which immediately makes any kind of precise movement really difficult. But they did include a dedicated walk button.
A walk button.
A walk button. And if you use it, if you slow down, you actually engage this extremely effective, almost broken stealth mechanic.
Wait, a stealth mechanic? In a 2003 Resident Evil light gun game.
Yes, you can literally just walk right past huge hordes of T-virus zombies, completely undetected.
Wow.
And considering how claustrophobic the maps are, this feature becomes, unintentionally crucial if you want to save your ammo.
And if that wasn't enough, that same walk button also doubles as an evasion move.
Sort of like the dodge in Resident Evil 3. And the sources all say, surprisingly, it works extremely well when you get the timing down.
It's such a game of contradictions then.
It really is. You have these surprisingly well-implemented tools, but the overall movement is just, It's described as feeling like rubbing soap on the character.
Rubbing soap on the character. That's perfect. I can feel it now. You're trying to pivot while running, but the camera's just snapping around wildly.
Right, because you don't have that right stick freedom to just smoothly look around. That disorientation is key to that soap feeling.
And that lack of free camera control is the biggest clue, isn't it? It tells you this game was fundamentally designed for the precision of a light gun. If you're playing this with a standard controller, you are fighting the game every single step of the way.
You really are. Yet, despite all those mechanical quirks, the atmosphere, it really holds up. The setting, this dark, cramped, drifting ocean liner, it's incredibly effective at generating claustrophobia. And the soundtrack is surprisingly strong.
And here's a massive quality of life blessing.
Yeah.
The map design.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike so many early Resident Evil games, this map meticulously marks your objectives, key items, locked doors. It completely eliminates all that frustrating backtracking that defined the genre back then.
Speaking of absurdity, let's move from the awkward controls to the utterly insane plot that Kavya came up with. The story kicks off with the essential Raccoon City recap. T-virus samples were stolen. Contamination starts on an umbrella ship.
And this is where we meet our heroes. We've got Bruce McGivern, an agent from U.S. Strategic Command, and Fong Ling, who's a Chinese agent.
They are so clearly designed to be this game's version of Leon and Ada.
100%. The partnership is all about spy intrigue and that, will they, won't they tension. And the villain is the magnificent Morpheus D. Duvall.
And the opening action sequence just sets the tone perfectly. Bruce gets attacked by a tyrant, and the sources highlight this is a combination of the T-virus and the G-virus.
And this is the best part.
And crucially, this combination has somehow given the creature electrical capabilities.
Electrical capabilities. It's the kind of feature you add when you realize your monster just isn't quite B-movie enough.
Exactly. But there's one really irritating technical detail here reflecting that low-budget nature. The subtitles and the spoken dialogue frequently do not match.
That's so frustrating. It just breaks the immersion every time.
Constantly. So as the story unfolds, Bruce eventually meets up with Fong Ling, and she even becomes playable for a little bit. And a specific detail that really caught our attention. When you switch to her, her inventory is already stocked with a powerful assault rifle.
And this is where we have to give a critical advisory. The source materials all warn that firing that assault rifle just fills the screen with these extremely bright, jarring white flashes with every single shot.
It's a definite photosensitivity warning for anyone thinking of tracking this game down.
Please be careful.
And before we get to the villain's big transformation, we do need to correct a key piece of lore that was mishandled in the U.S. translation.
Oh, a lore correction. Let's do it.
There's an in-game file that shows Umbrella was actively trying to incriminate Morpheus. The U.S. version says he was being framed for Raccoon City, but the original Japanese text clarifies that the frame job was actually for a leak at the Arkley Mountains laboratory.
A necessary correction for the diehard RE lore master out there.
You know it.
Okay, let's pivot to Morpheus D. Duvall himself, because his final transformation is where Kavya really injected their signature brand of body horror and psychological commentary.
Right. So Morpheus, who's established as being obsessed with perfection and beauty, he transforms into this creature that takes on these overtly stylized, often highly feminine physical traits.
High heels, right?
High heels, prominent features, the works.
And this feeds directly into one of the most compelling fan theories in all of Resident Evil lore.
Mm-hmm.
We know the T-virus and the G-virus often adapt to reflect the host's personality, their inner rage, their psychological state.
Right. Think of William Birkin in RE2. He was driven by ambition and rage, and he transforms into just this pure engine of destruction.
Or Wesker in RE5. His massive ego and inferiority complex drove him to become a literal giant, world-ending titan.
Exactly. So the central question raised by Morpheus's design is this. Is this transformation just adapting to his, superficial obsession with a certain aesthetic? Or is the virus reflecting something deeper? A possibly suppressed or complex identity, maybe a non-binary or trans identity that the host has deep inside.
And the genius of the design, which the sources call very cool, is that it just leans into that ambiguity. The game itself completely ignores it.
Totally ignores it.
But the visual result is so reminiscent of Alexia from Code Veronica, another villain who embraced this stylized, humanoid but monstrous final form.
And we absolutely cannot forget the sheer B-movie comedy of how it's presented.
Oh, this part.
Right after this supposedly terrifying transformation, Morpheus starts pursuing you, and the cutscene shows Bruce and Fong Ling just running away in tandem, arms pumping like
Scooby-Doo. The sources compared it to the Scooby-Doo chase scene, and that's perfect. It's this spectacular moment of tonal whiplash.
It really is.
Unfortunately, that B-movie gold doesn't last. After the ship sequence, Bruce is stranded, and he has to navigate what the sources all cite as the absolute worst part of the game.
Ugh, the aqueduct system.
The city's aqueducts.
It's just terrible. It's visually monotonous. It's a labyrinth, and it's designed purely to pad out the game's runtime. It kills the pace.
And during this slog, Bruce finally connects with HQ. And this is where the geopolitical tension just ratchets up dramatically.
Right. He learns that Morpheus is planning to launch T-virus missiles directly at the U.S.
And worse, he finds out that Fong Ling's government handlers in China are no longer cooperating with the mission.
Which instantly creates these really high-stakes trust issues between them. She's now essentially operating rogue, while Bruce has to stop this missile launch.
It's this international spy drama that, despite the bad game mechanics, actually provides a genuine, thrilling tension leading into the finale.
It does. And that finale is, of course, a series of escalating, absurd boss fights. First, you face this tough, blind monster where you have to use that stealth mechanic.
Then there's the difficult Queen Bee boss, another fight that's so flashy it really requires another photosensitivity warning.
It's a chaotic, frustrating fight.
But immediately after you survive that, the game completely throws out the rulebook, and it just gives you a literal laser weapon.
With unlimited ammunition.
Unlimited ammunition. The absurdity of the design choices just peaks right there.
And that's where the difficulty curve just officially collapses. That infinite laser is immediately used for an incredibly easy win against the final form of Morpheus.
It makes all that previous tension feel kind of pointless. The actual final boss, though, is the meat wall.
The meat wall. A grotesque advancing biological mass designed to absorb the missiles. You have to shoot its head or its orifices.
Well, how does a grotesque meat wall designed to absorb missiles turn into a super easy boss?
Well, the problem is the fight is just fundamentally one-dimensional. It looks intimidating, but its pattern is weak, and by that point you're so over-equipped you can just exploit its slow, linear movement.
So it's an anticlimax.
Yeah.
The game ends not with a bang, but with a shrug.
Pretty much. The conclusion is that the meat wall absorbs the missiles, they explode, the credits roll.
Only to be interrupted by that final piece of spy drama. Fong Ling rejects Bruce's offer to join the U.S. and chooses to go back to China.
So if we step back, what is the legacy of this weird little game? Dead Aim was met with mixed reviews, mostly because of the controls, and it sold so poorly that it effectively killed the entire Gun Survivor subseries. It was the final nail in the coffin.
So the final takeaway is that while the game is short, you can blow through it in under 3 hours, and it has basically zero replay value.
Right. Even the new Game Plus with Fong Ling is identical to Bruce's run.
It's still this magnificent experience, just defined by all its awkward, enthusiastic, and just plain weird design choices. It's a critical piece of Resident Evil history you need to be aware of.
And it's worth noting that Kavia, despite this failure, they weren't done with the franchise. They came back later to develop the much more successful Rail Shooters, Umbrella Chronicles, and Darkside Chronicles.
So they eventually found their niche.
They did.
So what does all this mean for you, the person who tracks game history? The Gun Survivor series, despite being a financial disaster, it serves as this crucial case study. It shows how major franchises were trying to navigate the chaotic early days of console hardware, forcing a survival horror experience into this niche light gun genre.
And for one final provocative thought, building on our discussion of the T-virus adapting to the host, if the virus truly taps into a person's deepest self or suppressed identity, as that fan analysis of Morpheus suggests, what does his electrically charged, hyper-feminine monster form truly reveal about his inner psychological landscape that the B-movie plot never bothered to explain?
And if you found yourself infected, what profound identity trait would the virus latch onto and amplify, creating your own ultimate monstrous T-virus form? Think about the self-reflection that question requires, and we'll see you next time.